All right. Hello and welcome everybody. It looks like Twitter may be rugging us a little bit, and everybody else on the app. It looks like there's having some issues with desktop and browser-based viewing of spaces right now. So it looks like this one's only going to be
It,
available on mobile.
yeah, we're getting that too. But hey, at least they got that X rebrand out there.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it'll
That's
maybe
what's
it'll
important. It's what counts.
maybe it'll make sense eventually, right? Maybe Elon's just heating up. I hope it does, because you establish one of the biggest brands in the world and then you burn it to the ground. We'll see. Um, but
it's a great marketing tactic.
yeah, I don't want to say too much negative stuff about it, or else I'm going to get shadow banned by the AI. So Twitter's great. Twitter's good. X is going to be the new greatest app ever for the algo. Um, but yeah, so welcome everybody. I hoping that while we may not get the same turnout we usually do live, hopefully Twitter will get everything together and people will be able to record or watch the recorded version. But for those of you who were able to connect on your phones and get in here, thank you for joining. We've got another awesome panel for everybody here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the company behind the Satoshiverse. I have been in the NFT space since 2017, and just before that, I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry. So kind of took the red pill on NFTs and haven't looked back. So this has been a great journey for me. I love that we get to do these spaces every week, because it just continues to encourage me that the space is continuing to grow and develop. So this will be no exception, I'm sure. We've got a great panel with three awesome guests. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pin a little bit of information about the Satoshiverse up here for those of you who may be new. I would encourage any of the panelists, if you want to pin information about your project to the top of the tweet. We'll see if, or the Twitter spaces. I don't know if that actually works, so maybe we'll try it one more time. I won't belabor talking a lot about the Satoshiverse, because I'm really interested in finding out more about you guys. But the real high level version is that we are a blockchain themed superhero universe. We've been building a game called Satoshi's Legions for the last year and a half, which is live in its alpha phase 3, which is our community alpha, and we're gearing up in the next 3 months to launch our mainnet alpha. So we're really excited about that. Really, been working hard on this. We have a 30-person team working full time on it through our studio, and just really excited to be kind of on the cusp of all things blockchain and gaming. But without further ado, I'd love to have each of our panelists give a quick introduction of themselves, their projects, their companies, and let us know what you're building. Again, feel free to post anything you want to the top of the spaces, and then we'll introduce Spencer and we'll jump into the questions. We have a good panel organized for all of you. So why don't we start with FGL Games? So why don't you give us a quick introduction?
Hey everyone, this is Martina from FGL NFT Games. Just a quick intro about us. We've been around in the games industry for about 15 years, where we've started out like as a marketplace where developers and publishers could, do license deals, and later on we started publishing mobile games. Mainly mobile free-to-play games, and that's the experience that we're currently really building on. So about 2 years ago, we launched our first NFT game on the Wax blockchain. That was Cosmic Clash, and right now we're operating a total of 3 games. So in the meantime, we also launched Mecha World and Outlaw Troopers, and we have many more plans to launch even more games. And they all are connected to each other, where you can use several NFTs into like several of the games, and they all work with our own token, the FGL token. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're currently working on. And then what we're like for the future plans we have is definitely going multi-chain.
I love it. Well, thank you for the introduction. It's great to hear that you guys have released some games and they're live, and you have some interoperability between them. I know that's something that we're working on, and I think it's one of the more interesting things about NFTs. So definitely excited to dive into that a bit more. How about do we have Dominic at Resurgence there?
We're here. Thanks for having us, Nick. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to continuing doing this spaces. It's always a good time. But yeah, for those that don't know, I'm Dominic, lead for business development, community, and a bunch of other titles over at Resurgence and Emergent Entertainment. So Emergent Entertainment is the company building its first Web3 title. We have two divisions, a Web2 XR VR team building out and just shipped recently a Peaky Blinders game, which has been doing really well. So for those that are fans of that, DM me and I'll happily get you situated there. But then we have our Web3 team building out Resurgence games. So it's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi MMO based 1,000 years in the future. Build, collaborate, trade, and a bunch of fun stuff to come. So we have a lot going on. Our team is filled with veterans from Sony, PlayStation, Activision, all the big titles, and we're really excited and ambitiously building. So lots to come, and I pinned the trailer there. At least you can see something that we're kind of like. That was our first blockbuster trailer, just to kind of emulate what the vibe that we're trying to build for. But yeah. Anyways, thanks for having us. I'm looking forward to today.
Amazing. Well, thank you for being here, and I'm definitely looking forward to get into what you guys are building as well. And then last but not least, we've got I think it's Andy at Pixelinks. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's right. And you pronounced Pixelinks correctly, which we all very much appreciate because it's a bit of a confusing one. So yeah, I'm Andy. I'm head of marketing at Pixelinks. We also have a product called Chorus that I'll talk about a little bit later. But our background, we are co-founded by Deadmau5 and Richie Houghton as a music metaverse company. As you know, I mean, Deadmau5 himself is definitely a big gamer and big into the space. So we were founded in late 2020 with the goal of building out a music metaverse and ecosystem, and made progress towards that since then. We are co-funded by Niantic. We built an experience on their SDK called Elixir that we alphaed the December of last year and continued to develop early into this year before pivoting to something called Chorus, Korus. Again, I'll pin a tweet for that when I give you some more info on it. But these are both different takes on music gaming. Chorus is more of a proposition that leverages AI generative creation and a character, pairs it with kind of an AI companion that's almost like the dream is to build an AI musical Tamagotchi. And we're going to be revealing actually in the next 2-3 days that design and more about it. And then we'll have a free mint for that character within probably the next week. We're still locking down the exact date, but if you want it and you want to get in on that free mint, please follow us at the Pixelinks account. You can also hit me up direct at Andy Ochiltree. I will put my info in reply. And and myself, I love what you are doing over there at Satoshiverse. I just think that everybody here. This is a tough space, Web3, right, this year. And gamers have traditionally been so touch and go on Web3. As a core gamer myself, somebody who's played games since his youth and somebody who loves the space and the industry, I think it's going to take gaming to an entirely other level. And it is going to open up, entirely new economies and ideas of ownership and expand the possibilities of gaming. And we've laid the groundwork already. I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but for 2 decades, we've had economies built around digital objects, and this just makes sense. And there's so much more than just economy that we can add to games through blockchain. So excited to be here, and props to my fellow co-panelists and co-host or the host here on everything you're doing in the space. Super freaking cool.
Amazing. Well, great to have you. Big fan of what you guys are building as well. I saw some of Deadmau5's early stuff in the space and stuff he did in Sandbox and with the helmets. I think it's been cool to see some of the bigger celebrity musicians actually diving in, because I think early on it was a little ambiguous how music would fit into the space. And coming from my perspective, I mean, the specific part of the entertainment industry I worked in as a lawyer, and what drew me to the space was the music industry. So I've always seen so much potential for music in the space, and we've done some stuff with Monster Cat, are also doing some pretty cool stuff in the space. And whenever I see thoughtful, interesting uses of music in the space, it excites me. So really, really excited to have you here, and dive in and talk more about what you guys are building. All right, so we've got one more person to introduce, and that is our Spencer. Why don't you jump on? Tell us again a little bit about yourself for those of you who don't know, and then we could jump into the questions.
Sure thing. Thanks, Nex. So my name is Spencer Vogel, and I've been working with Satoshiverse and Apollo for the last couple years now, and I also get to host these spaces every week. So getting into the format a little bit. So we're going to start off with a question for everyone, and I'll call on someone to start, and then you guys can feel free to just jump in and continue the conversation from there. Then we'll get into some individual questions, and then some more questions for everyone again at the end. And then for everyone listening, we do a live giveaway at the end of our spaces. So we're going to be giving away a couple different prizes today. So make sure you stick around to the end of our space to make sure that you get a chance to win. So moving on to our first question here. So maybe Dominic, you can start us on this one. So what new developments in the Web3 gaming and Metaverse space are you most excited about right now?
That's a good one. I think, we're at an interesting time where we're starting to see a lot of, I mentioned that, I maybe talked about this last time, but I'm loving the fact that we're starting to see the actual big studios kind of make their way into the space, and they're easing their way into it. And don't get me wrong, like myself and Apollo, like we obviously want to succeed, but I think that it's going to take these big game studios to start kind of like getting involved in the space where there's going to be bringing more eyes to us. So I think that's one development that we're obviously going to see more people come into the space when more, I guess, respected studios are going to be building in the same industry as us. But I mean, obviously, we're seeing a lot of L1s and different advancements within just like blockchain tech continue to grow. So that's obviously going to be helping us when it comes to just like building out the infrastructure of games and stuff. But yeah, that's off the top of my head.
And yeah, just to build on that, like I totally agree. I really see big companies coming into the space and innovating as the key to hopefully getting over the hump, right? That I think the mass that Web3 has had in integrating with kind of core gamers and mass. And I think it is big companies coming in, but they can't approach it like Ubi. There really has to be meaningful innovation that serves gamers, and really overserves gamers, to sell people on the benefit and the fact that this tech can actually take things forward. And it's not just a cash grab. This tech isn't just used, right, to commercialize more. It's used to innovate more in ways that create more meaningful experiences. The fact that Square Enix is going to be innovating in the space still, Sega, Konami's getting in on it. It's interesting to see a lot of old school companies, pivot and say, we're going to embrace this. I would buy a shitload of Castlevania Symphony of the Night NFTs or any Castlevania NFTs.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that the Asian
yeah.
market too is going to, and like, I mean, Square Enix is one of the biggest gaming studios in the world. And I think that they have been actually doing it well at their entrance of the space. But I think it's exactly what you said. I don't think it has to be like one studio making a really good game. It just has to be able to kind of compel people to take the dive into the space. Because realistically, like I've been talking to a lot of people within the gaming side and not the gaming side. And at the end of the day, this space is not going to advance until we have a reason for people to come into it. Because we're all bought in, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to take that to actually make the games that we want to have at the level that we want to be operating, I guess, at.
Yeah, I totally agree. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna just add real quick on that. So I was at San Diego Comic-Con this past weekend, and Square Enix. I mean, there's a lot of these big game companies that were there, but Square Enix, for example, they were doing a physical to digital activation where they were selling trading cards for Final Fantasy for the new release. and basically which would be redeemable for NFT cards that I think are going to be usable in the game as well. So just an anecdote on that I wanted to add.
Was there?
Yeah,
I'm curious, actually. So I missed Comic-Con this year, which it's my like almost yearly pilgrimage. So that was kind of a bummer. I love Nerd Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Um, but did you see a lot? Do you feel like you saw more than that, like in terms of activations that incorporated blockchain or Web3 in any way? Like, was there a presence there?
Definitely. I mean, a couple notable activations that I saw, which I guess didn't actually highlight the NFT aspect of it. Both Cool Cats and Pudgy Penguins were there. And the full focus of their booth was really just like their physical products that they've been releasing, didn't even mention NFTs in any way whatsoever. So I thought that was interesting, and probably a smart way for the crowd who was there for those people to get exposed to those brands. But then there's a couple other Web3 games that were there as well, though.
Yeah, what I'm just excited about, I mean, mostly maybe excited is not like sort of the right word, but I'm like very happy with right now is that a lot of the sort of naysayers are so far not right, you know? I mean, they'll be like, you know, there was the hype in NFT and that sort of passed. And then naysayers were like, oh, you see, it was all the fad. But, you know, no, it wasn't because we're still here around. We're still innovating, you know, we're still coming out with cool stuff. And actually, like sort of that, you know, sort of dip in the market that happened only helped with sort of weeding out sort of the profit seekers, and then really, you know, we're only left sort of with the projects here that really want to make a change and want to sort of make a splash and make use of the technology and make the best out of it. So yeah, that's currently what in the current market something that I'm really happy about. And I think that's also like those examples that you just said of like, you know, projects that were present at the Comic-Con show floor. That I think that's another example of it. Like, hey, we're here to stay.
yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I, I think that there's been a lot of things in the last 6 months that have really encouraged me about where the NFT gaming space or just the gaming space is going. I think one of them, probably the thing that's been the most encouraging, is just to see some of these projects that have been working on their games for the last 2 years start to get to a point where they have their MVPs. Things are starting to be released in alpha, and you're just seeing the quality of gaming experiences go up tremendously. I think one of the reasons that NFTs kind of got a bad rap in the gaming industry is because we really weren't putting our best foot forward for the last several years with the combination of just really bad gameplay and just financialization, kind of the early GameFi movement behind a lot of these games. And so I think what we're starting to see is games that have the budget, the teams, the experience behind them start to get their games to a point where people can actually play them. They can see where this space is going, and they can understand all the different ways that NFTs could be used as a way of bolstering the games themselves. I think kind of connected to that, which is really exciting to me because I think it's going to accelerate the movement of the space, isn't so much the content producers, but the companies that are working on infrastructure to kind of take down some of those barriers to entry for both developers and gamers. Just in the last 6 months, I've seen some really interesting solutions to make the process of playing blockchain games and becoming onboarded, getting onboarded to blockchains much easier, at least for EVM, compatible networks. I think there's, a couple Wax projects here, and I think Wax did a really good job from the get-go of being a very, a very easy to use and easy to onboard blockchain. I think that was to their credit. But I think that some of the EVM compatible networks have had a little bit more of hurdles involved, and I think third parties have largely solved a lot of the biggest problems. And so I'm excited to see some of these solutions start to be integrated into games to enable things like multi-chain and in-client signing of blockchain transactions, and just a lot of cool stuff that has recently been released or announced. And then I guess last, we were talking about Yubi, and I agree. I think the way that they dipped their toes into the space was just, bound to fail. Although, I commend them for taking the risk, because I'm sure the topic of NFTs has come up at every major gaming company, and we talk about the select few that have done something and have actually pulled the trigger and maybe failed. But there's plenty more that have said absolutely not. Why would we upset our billion-dollar business model that just is a cash machine, right? And I think that the rhetoric around NFTs and gaming has just been so backwards, in that. And I say this every week on here, but it's such a consumer-focused movement that I think is the future of digital asset ownership generally, not just game assets. And I think that eventually that's going to be kind of framed in a way that people believe that, and they understand that, and they understand the role of ownership and what ownership means. But I guess tying back to Ubisoft, I don't know if you guys saw that they just recently announced Champions Tactics, which is their title that they're building as an NFT game. And so I haven't dove in too far, but if any of you have seen that, I'd be interested to know what you think, because it looks like they did their experiment, and now they're doing something much more meaningful in terms of like a real full-fledged game. So curious. I haven't done enough research yet, but I'm curious to know if any of you have, and what you think.
I personally haven't, so I don't know if anyone was going to speak to it, but I'm very curious, and I'll have to look into that, because I guess are they in dev right now, or is it actually ready to be shipped?
Let's see. I'm actually looking at it now. I think it's further along than just an announcement that they're going to build
Totally.
it, but I don't think it's ready to ship yet.
That makes sense. I feel like a lot of these studios are also not even saying anything, and I guarantee you there's some really big studios that haven't even told externally that they're building games right now and just going to have it ready to rock. And if the system's ready to go, then and the market switches, I think we'll start seeing a lot of titles that are going to come out of nowhere, and that's where that speed comes into play. But I mean, you saw Epic Games release their first title, and it kind of flopped a little bit. But I think that's just like the current market that we're in, right, and kind of where we're at. But I'm really excited to see how these all play out.
Yeah, I think a lot of those bigger folks that you mentioned are waiting until this market like either stabilizes or gets just a little less dire to announce things. It's also like if you see, if Ubi announces something and it gets panned, all of a sudden you probably scuttle your announcement plans and say, let's wait till this cools down, because it is such a hot issue. On Champions, I took a look, when they announced. My question is like, if you're unlocking characters in a tactics game, you're unlocking abilities as well when you unlock a character. So like, and tactical and strategic options. Like, are we paying for those? Which is an interesting thing, and I think that's okay. Like from my perspective, I'm like, I'm in, but I'm playing the game, the core gamer devil's advocate here, and wondering what utility is one thing, but are you gating big parts of the game or play opportunities behind an NFT, and is that potentially a weakness for them, or does that expose them in any way?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm really interested to learn more about it, because I think that, at least with some of these bigger titles potentially that are going to have the potential to be a bigger thing, a play to own model might work okay for NFTs, right? Where you're looking at NFTs as just an ownership layer, but my guess is that that's not where they're going to stop, right? Like you said, you might be talking, paying to unlock. I mean, it may just be aesthetics, it may be, I'd just be speculating, but I think, we've thought about this a lot as we're building our game, and, just different aspects of where those paywalls can be, and, where, because the games do need to generate money, right? And so it's got to be thoughtfully done. I don't know that necessarily NFTs have to change all the monetary components of the game, but they certainly do implicate that you're going to have an open economy, right? And so you have to think about pay to win type of issues and all of the stuff that comes with a free market. I was a big Diablo fan growing up, and while I actually didn't mind it, I think there was very valid hate for the real money auction house in Diablo 3, because I'm not sure the game was fully thought through in the game design and the effects that it might have on the player economy. So I think that there are types of games that are much better suited at this early stage for NFT adoption, and it'll be interesting to see how this game in particular implements them, and whether, again, whether this is something that's being strategically done from base level, right? At day one of the design of the game, they know this is going to be an NFT game with an open economy, or is this something that was, look, we've got this game in development. It may not be one of our best titles, or it's a middle title, and it's something that we spent some money on. Maybe NFTs make sense for it, but it's coming in later in the design stage or the development stage, and maybe they don't fit perfectly. I think there's definitely a risk with that. I think you have to be very thoughtful in the design about the implications of having ownable assets and tradable assets within your game.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It really needs to be sort of part of the core of the game, to be built up if you want the economy to work right. I mean, with our games, we've always said like, hey, we don't want it to be like play to earn, but we want it to be about the owning aspect. So like play and own is kind of how we market it. And like sort of that earning aspect, as far as people want that comes from tournaments, or just like winning, and you can win only if you actually play, not if you use a bot or a script on it. We've always designed it in a way that it really needs your human interaction to be able to sort of end up high on the leaderboard for the tournaments. But mostly we see that players just really enjoy like building up their assets and building up their fleet in Cosmic Clash, or like their mechas in Mecha World, and really deck those out with cool parts and stuff like that. And those are the ones that stick around. The ones that are sort of coming in clearly with an idea of like, okay, I'm here to earn stuff and to make money off this game. They don't really sort of last long, because it requires the fun to play it. So that's kind of the course that we want to continue going, because we see just sustainability in that, and we don't think that sustainability can be reached in any other way.
Awesome. Well, this has been great discussion, everyone. I want to move us on to individual questions, though, just to be conscious of time here. So for our first individual question, I want to give that to Martine. So as you mentioned in your intro, FGL has been a pretty established player in the Web2 mobile gaming space for many years now. So I was curious, why did FGL actually decide to make the move into Web3 gaming, and what response did you get from your Web2 players and partners when you announced that move?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a push and a pull on our side. Like on one hand, we were in the mobile free-to-play space, and if you're a little bit familiar with that, you know that the current market conditions for that are not great. Marketing's become more expensive, and it's always hard to retain players because of like all the competition in the space. So even though we have a very solid player base, like for the future, we were just unsure if that is where our growth is. So we're looking into different markets. Like we've launched a few experiences on Roblox. We have a few games out on Steam now, and hey, let's check out this Web3 blockchain thing. And we already happen to have some contacts with the Wax team. So like we've been in touch with them for a few years already, and they're like, "Come on, guys, this is the moment. Let's check out our Wax blockchain and just see if you like it for your game concepts." So we decided to just check it out. Very curious, of course, and wrote some game design docs for it. Developed our first game for it. And what kind of mostly blew us away was the community. and how incredibly involved and engaged the wax community is. And that was kind of our main aspect to stick around and to try it. But I have to say, we do kind of keep it more, separate, to like our Web 2 and our Web 3 business. But that's also because of the types of games that we have on Web 2. We have casual puzzle games there, mostly a single player game experience. Our target audience there is not the most sort of tech savvy and not the first movers on new technology. And so, not sort of a natural fit for the Web3 audience. So we're sort of not trying to convert them to Web3. So we're just like building up another fan base right now. And I'm not saying that in the future we might not sort of merge that a little bit and bring those two worlds together, but I think right now it's just not the time for that yet.
Great. Thanks so much, Martine. So moving on next to Dominic. So in a world where it oftentimes can be cost prohibitive to get involved in Web3 games, I'm curious why Resurgence decided to go with a free-to-play model.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, I mean, Nick and I were talking about it last time, how there's no perfect way of going about whether you're going to do free to play or charging that $80 front up fee. But I think for us, when it came to what we were trying to build and the way that we wanted to move, free to play made the most sense. We're going to begin as a browser-based game. Who knows what the future holds? But we think that the free to play opportunity for people to come in and kind of just experience what we are building is the best way to like onboard and also retain players. So we decided free to play, and the blockchain side is a choose to interact with basis. So you're going to be able to come into the game and play Resurgence as you wish, and not do anything with NFTs or anything with blockchain if you don't please to. But that opportunity is going to be there, and if you want to have that immersive experience, that's where you can choose to interact with the blockchain. That's where you can choose to put some cash into it and that sort of thing. So that's where we kind of felt with what's going to work for us. And I mean, we're going to learn along the way, but for now, that's what we're going to rock with.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that that there has to be some sort of hybridization here, just because we're looking at the massive potential of people who are gamers and who want to consume fun games. And I think the difference now is that NFT games of the past were very one-dimensional, and probably couldn't stand on their own, to be honest. I think the games that we're seeing now can, and they should, and I think that there is a certain amount of, I think, navigating some interesting waters there in terms of, okay, what are people owning? What are people not owning? What's an NFT? What's not an NFT? Do they have access to the player economy if they're not using blockchain? And so like just that example, that's how we've been somewhat thinking about this, that you'll be able to do a lot of the functions of the game without, jumping in and getting a blockchain wallet. But if you actually want to buy and sell things, that's how you do it, right? You can own and therefore transfer and sell and whatnot if you mint it as an NFT. And I think that at least what we've seen, my kind of view as a gamer is that if there's you've played a game for years or months or whatever it is, and the game doesn't let you sell stuff freely, you're willing to jump through some pretty great hoops to get that sold, and if you want to move on to another game or exit the game, people are usually they're willing to post on forums and jump into sketchy transactions. And so I think at the very least, the barriers to entry for blockchain are far, far lower than some of the ways that I think people were selling Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 now accounts and items. So, I think that is probably a good point where we can drive some of that adoption and say, look, if you actually own your items, this is easy, right? There's 10,000 different places you can sell NFTs. In fact, there's communities that are constantly looking to buy them. And it's not just about, there's a collectability component to it. So, you've played a game for, 1,000 hours over, a year or two, you've had a ton of fun, but now you're looking to play a new game or, exit in some way. Here's a relatively easy way to do it. All you got to do is, this option or this option or this option. And, now those options are getting better and better, and you're there. So yeah, I think that's how we've been thinking about it. So I think it's good to hear kind of that you guys are on a similar path.
Yeah, we at Pixelinks, like I said, we're about to launch something, and it's going to have a component of minting and ownership, where you can actually you create tracks through generative AI, and then you tweak them to your liking, get it to kind of the perfect sound for what you're looking for, and then you can actually mint those and use those and sell those anywhere, commercialize them, use them in your work. You have full rights. And we think that's a really interesting, use case, but you don't have to do that. Again, to your point, it's not necessary, and you can actually create inventories, save tracks without doing that. And I think thinking of, product and Web3 games in a way that layers Web3 on and creates new benefits within existing frameworks. And like you say, doesn't necessarily require them or like require a connection to blockchain technology or what have you, is absolutely the key to getting people in. It's a bit of a Trojan horse. It's a bit of, hey, you're familiar with this already. Here's a way to make it even better. And yeah, I'm excited to see stuff kind of converge in terms of like even mobile gaming, MTX, right, formats, and MTX formats and Web3 like coming together. I think there'll be a lot there that will really help. That said, this will be an interesting experiment because I mentioned we're doing a free mint of the Genesis core, and it actually will be required to get access to the Chorus platform. So it's free. It's totally free. You do have to set up a wallet. You don't have to have any currency. But you do need one in a connected wallet to get in. So I think that'll be a really interesting test for us because, as you know, our product appeals to a number of different people. Endemic, Web3, yes, but also music fans and people who just love to tinker, and mobile gamers as well. So yeah, we'll see. We'll let you know how that goes.
Awesome. Yeah, Andy, you got a little ahead of us here because I was about to ask you about some of that stuff for your next question here. But maybe you could I guess because maybe this is something I'm having a little bit trouble with. Could you maybe help us visualize kind of what the Chorus AI music companion looks like, for new users coming in and seeing it for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are actually redesigning what we're calling the Genesis core. The companions are all cores, KOR, and we're going to have multiple designs of cores. We're going to have premium cores in which we work with partners to reflect their aesthetic and then introduce new music based on either a label or an artist. For instance, we're working with Beatport, who, if you're into the EDM scene, you're really familiar with. Huge stable of artists. We're working with 7 of their coolest artists, and we're gonna create AI stems based on their music. So that will have its own core essentially. And just to give you the product experience consists of a dashboard for creation. It's currently web based, but we are developing a proper app. On the right side, there's just a dashboard for creation, which has drum, bass, melody, chord stems, and you can select those. Eventually, you'll be able to mix and match those to create kind of like your perfect crazy mix of different influences, and you'll be able to tweak it on the fly and get it to exactly where you want it through a number of different tools. And then on the left side is the actual companion. And again, the companion's a bit like a skin that you get, in a in COD or in Apex. I'm a big Apex player. In which, yeah, you get the skin, but then you also, like in COD, for example, you unlock a new weapon, maybe with some unique attachments or just some kind of unique tuning. This is going to be similar, right? You're unlocking a new and collecting a new aesthetically different core AI music companion, which is fully 3D. Which, if you, I wish I could direct you to the site because we took it down while we're redesigning. but basically it's robotic. You'll see it's a bit spherical. I won't give you any more than that because we're going to drop the reveal sometime in the next 2 days. But basically, you start collecting those. They're in the experience, fully animated, fully 3D models, which on their own are NFT assets. And then the features and the benefits that they're unlocking, to me is kind of akin to skin packs, if you will, in kind of the music NFT space. Did that help? It's like
that does help. That's
okay.
a great explanation. Yeah, now I can visualize it. Appreciate that. And
Yep.
very much looking forward to the free mint. I'm definitely gonna try to mint one if I can.
Yeah, definitely. I will pin that right now. And everybody get on in. Again.
Awesome. And then our last individual question is to our own Nick. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the Satoshiverse Alpha Phase 3 launch and the new final boss reward that we recently just announced.
Yeah, so let me see if I can find the tweet real quick, because that, picture is worth 1,000 words, and in this case we have a video, so it's got to be worth at least 10,000, right? Yeah, that was a bad joke. I'm kidding.
I liked it. That's good.
So here's oops, did I pin the wrong one? No, there it is. So let's start with what you asked. Phase 3. So we've got we've basically done a big content update on the game. There's a new gang that's been added, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the gang, basically the theme of the game is that there is a rebellion that is being led by Satoshi and his followers, and you are one of those selected by Satoshi, and it's kind of you versus the world in the outskirts of Washington, D.C., which is the bad guy headquarters, where you're trying to get into the headquarters and take down the boss of this totalitarian regime that has taken over. But in doing so, they've contracted 3 gangs to kind of terrorize the people, keep them in order, and your goal is to fight those gangs. And so there's 3 gangs, 3 bosses now. Before there were 2 and 2, but we added a new gang, a new boss, which is our kind of later game progression now within the run. The game itself is kind of a blend between a roguelike and an RPG, so it has some of the RPG progression components, but some of the kind of core characteristics of a roguelike, where you start at the beginning and you kind of advance as you go and you get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in. And we're working on some features to make that a little bit smoother of a process, but it is a challenging game. I think like most roguelikes and Souls-likes games, it's a game that takes a little bit of a learning curve to learn, but I think it becomes as much a game of skill as it is a game of time. And so the phase 3 opened that up, but it also opened the number of eligible users up to all of our collectibles holders. So for the past 3 years, we've been either through free giveaways or prizes or different things, usually for free or real cheap. We've been giving away or selling these collectibles that are part of our universe, and throughout those collections, we've had around 80,000 unique wallets collect them. And so we've now opened up access to all those people. Now, a lot of those came in, a year ago and may not have been gamers. So we're still getting the word out that they can now, join the game. But the other cool part is that it has made the access point very cheap. Some of these collectibles, it's the Satoshiverse collectibles collection on OpenSea, and we can post a link. But some of these are $1, $2, and so people are getting the opportunity to kind of jump in, play the game, help us develop it. We're actively developing the game with our community, so that's one of the things that's at least most rewarding for me. We get to have these conversations every day in our Discord and work with our community to add new features. And so many of the features that are being worked on right now actually originated in the community. So that's been exciting, and this is a much better opportunity to have people come in. Now it's kind of one of those things where if you're interested and you don't want to deal with trying to get a collectible, just jump into the Discord and tag me or just say it, and I'd be happy to send one of you guys or as many of you as you want a collectible to get you playing the game. But once you're in, we're kind of keeping the group limited as we kind of polish the game leading up to our mainnet launch, which will be free to play, open to everyone. And so, yeah, that's phase 3. We've done just a major content and optimization update from our phase 2 version. And then kind of as a perk of the phase 3 release, while right now we are currently on testnet because we're testing the game, when we go on mainnet, anyone who defeats the final boss, which I won't spoil, and because I know a lot of people are currently plugging to try to get there, the final boss, you will then be eligible to receive, or you will receive, a free legendary Sat Saber NFT, which is the sword that you guys see in the video there, that I pinned. And that's going to be one of our first legendary weapons that will mint as soon as we go live on mainnet, and then distribute to a snapshot of people who are able to complete the game during this phase. So just a little incentive to get in there, play, give us your feedback so that we can keep building, but also something that if this takes off, will be a very important part of our early lore, and likely a pretty collectible item. So I'm definitely doing it myself. No advantages for the team. We're just we're all grinding, trying to play the game ourselves. So if any of you are interested in a game that kind of feels a little bit like it's a zoomed in, I guess, a third person hack and slash type of feel to it, kind of quick pace, check it out. Let us know if you don't have a collectible, we'll get you one, and yeah, have some fun. Let us know what you think.
Well, speaking of which, maybe it's a good time to actually give away one of those collectibles. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the space, we do giveaways every week here. So from the Satoshiverse side, we are giving away one of our Satoshiverse trading cards, which is the Captain Emo Takes London Gold Rarity card, which Nick mentioned will give you access to play the game right now. And so the winner for that is qfs.eth, or @hangducks. Congratulations, send us a DM and we'll make sure to get you your prize. And then FGL is also very generously offering a giveaway prize today as well. And they are giving one Outlaw Trooper promo pack, which will allow you to get started and play the game. And that is going to Jotzi, or @Jotzi. So congratulations, Jotzi. Definitely get connected to FGL. We'll make sure to get you your prize for that as well. Before we wrap up today, we have probably time for one more question for the group. And maybe Andy, you could start us off on answering this one. The question is, so how can we combat some of the negative stereotypes and misconceptions about cryptocurrency and NFTs in order to bring new people into the space?
Oh, dude, fantastic question. It's honestly, I'm starting to take it personally after being in this space. I'm not as OG as some of you folks, but I've been doing this for about a year and a half, and yeah, it's in the past year and a half, right? We've seen a distinct shift, especially in the second half of 2022. So yeah, I think honestly, I think a few things. I think time heals all wounds. I think there's definitely an aspect to that. I think this stuff is cyclical. But I think what we can do is members of the community in this industry, the ones that are building the future here, is create great product. Create great product that flies in the face of all the accusations that Web3 projects are just PFP rug pulls. That very extreme narrative, and that crypto itself doesn't have value as a currency. I think the people on this call are doing it, and we need more people like you all creating great experiences, things that truly bring value, and aren't just based on economic mechanics. I think the more stuff like that gets created, the better. Those are great use cases. I think also I think there's something to advocacy and proselytizing. And I would love to see the Twitter Spaces we do be joined by folks outside of the endemic Web3 space, so they can hear direct from us what we're doing, how we're using the technology, and how we want to use the technology to create great experiences that actually deliver either more value, that decentralize and take power away from those who have centralized power, even and monetary opportunity. I think that message is really important, and I think that was something that existed at the beginning and has been replaced by this other narrative, of course. And I think the fact that Web3 can be used to disrupt and to create new models and to reroute value to artists and the people who create the value. I think what's going on with the writer strike is like a great example, right? Of how there is this pent up demand and pent up desire, right, for those who generate the value to reap the value. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I think that we've got all the everything we need. We've got the message, and we've got great projects in the space. We just need to. It's about marketing, right? And we need all these parties to start to get more attention and onboard more folks. And again, I would just also call back to the product, in terms of like incorporating Web3 as a layer and talking about the benefit rather than the technology. It would, if you are experiencing the benefit of Web3 and then as a Web2 or Web 2.5er only after the fact, maybe realize that it's truly Web3 or blockchain tech, great. Then we have just stealth converted you. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I actually am going to have to drop in just about a few minutes for a meeting. So before that, I just wanted to say this has been awesome. Please, I would love to come back at any time that you would have me. I love gaming. I love this space, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for being here. No, we appreciated having you on, and you're certainly welcome back. We love to kind of have the repeat guests and check in and see how things are progressing. And I'm sure you'll hear about us when we're doing some, or hear from us when we're doing some interesting partnership stuff coming up. So we'll definitely be in touch, and thank you for joining. Kind of going back to the question, I feel very similarly to Andy on this one. I think it's about changing the narrative. I think there's a few things that have been happening in the kind of progression into some people having negative thoughts in the traditional gaming space about Web3, and I don't think it was all entirely unintentional. I think that, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think some of the narrative was driven by key stakeholders, whether they be major gaming influencers or major gaming companies that have relationships with those influencers. I think there has been rhetoric in a direction that certainly benefits the bigger gaming studios by allowing them to kind of stay attached to what I think is an antiquated model that won't survive kind of this digital boom. But, I think that EA and, with their FIFA game, they're comfortable selling new packs every year and continuing to rake in that dough, right? I think the idea of NFTs is scary for a lot of these bigger publishers, and so there's kind of a natural incentive, if not to stop it, to slow it down. And so I think there was a little bit of that, especially early on. I remember, when I got involved in the space, no one was talking about NFTs. NFTs were kind of a pipe dream. I came in through Decentraland because I thought it was really interesting that digital land and metaverses could, have this ownership structure behind them. And I thought that was really unique. And so, that's what got me involved. And more than even crypto, I believed in the concept that digital ownership of assets was going to be important, right? So I think that we need to stop talking so much about play and earn, the financialization of games, because viscerally gamers hate that, right? A lot of these gamers who are, keyboard warriors on Reddit or YouTube, they're not playing the games to make a living, to put bread on the table, as some people have, I think, in our early Web3 space, and I think that's great. But that's not why they're playing games, right? They're playing games because they like playing the games, and I think we have to appeal to that rhetoric, right? That we're building great games and we're empowering gamers, and I think that there's almost like a trust system that I think the Web3 business model boils down to, we're going to give you something that's better than what you had before because you're going to own it. And in exchange, we're going to be able to create more value together, and we're going to be able to share in that value. I don't think, just because we've spent a lot of time thinking about how to create sustainable Web3 models for games, and I don't think it works unless there is an additional value creation and you're sharing in that value creation with the gamer. I think that you can't just slap NFTs on an old model. It won't work. It'll break the game, and I think we've seen that with more centralized approaches to financialization of games. I think that if we really want this to persist, it's got to be something like, I can sell this skin as a license in a traditional game for $1 because I know that I'm never going to be able to use it in a future game. But if I make that commitment to the gamer that this skin is going to grow with you, and let's use FIFA as an example. You're getting Messi, and you're able to get him at the Barca Division 3 level when he's 14, and you take a gamble and you pay $2, but when Messi's Messi, 10, 15 years later, you get the stat boosts and you get this really valuable limited edition player that you can use. Well, maybe then, that additional value creation is shared, and maybe that's no longer a $1 asset. Maybe there's a bunch of other players who don't make it. Those are $1 assets, but maybe that extra, maybe you're willing to pay $2 for that, or $3 or $5, because that's going to persist and you're going to be able to use that forever. And then you have the benefits of a gamer that actually cares about the persistence of your game, the development of your game, the longevity of the game, and the future titles you're going to release. So I think it's really starting to change the way we think about the business model, and really help gamers understand that this can't work without them. We're not going to just be able to force feed it to them. They have to buy in. They have to understand that this model is better, but it only works if they buy in. So that's my opinion. I won't speak for everybody.
Yeah, no, totally. I think you pretty much got it on the nose there. The only thing that I would also add is just just the emphasis when it comes to retention, that I guess as the game developer, that they don't maybe see that, or they're not ready to make the switch yet, but building out products that are going to be able to last, and that ownership just gets that much more strong, and the retention of players will be that much more, true. So I'm excited. I appreciate you guys. I got to run. I got a meeting now too. So thank you so much for hosting. It's always a pleasure. I'm always happy to come by and chat, and I look forward to continue to watch you guys all grow. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate it, Nick, and then the whole team.
Great having you on. And then FGL as well. Martina, very nice to have you on. Feel free to say some closing words if you'd like, and then we'll wrap things up because we are flowing over. So I'll give you the mic, and then we'll close it up.
I'll keep it short. I'm very conscious of people's time. But yeah, just great words already said by my fellow speakers, and I can absolutely agree with them on all the points that they made. We just need to continue really building quality projects and sort of, show people that the space is not at all doom and gloom as the haters really want it to seem it is, because it's not. As I mentioned before already, community is really sort of what hooked us in after we made our first steps into NFT games, and it really showed us that it can be a great collaborative space. Also, all the other projects that we're collaborating with, on the Wax blockchain, but also on other blockchains, and it really shows me that we're all in it together, and we're all in it to really build good stuff, good products, good games. So we just gotta continue doing that, and really sort of show that quality projects do have, can make good use of blockchain technology and of NFTs, and we're here to stay.
Amazing. Couldn't agree more. Again, thank you for joining. Thank you to all of you who were able to get past X's rug pull barrier and make it live to the spaces. And next week we will have another panel like this. We'll announce the date and time in the coming days, but very, very excited to keep doing this and keep hearing about all the great projects. Just a quick reminder to everybody here to make sure that you go and follow and check out the projects that took their time to be here. Everybody's doing some awesome stuff, as you just heard. So we really want to encourage this to be a space where people are seeing all the great stuff that is being built. So thank you all for joining. Feel free to invite your friends next time. Let's keep getting these spaces packed. And until next time, thank you all. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you all. We will see you next time.